Aaron Lee Dowell is a filmmaker and professor from Compton, California. He has made more than half a dozen short films and worked on several features and web series. Most recently, co-produced the documentary "Congratulations, You're on Your Own: Life After Foster Care," which aired on PBS SoCal a couple years ago. He also won Best Comedy at the Long Beach Indie Film Festival for his short film "Let's Go for a Ride," which we saw a few scenes from. His work tends to explore the mundane and the lives of people of color. He's currently an adjunct professor of film video at Cal State Long Beach and Loyola Marymount University. He has a BA in African American Studies from Morehouse College and an MFA in film production from Loyola Marymount. I've sent you all links with his work there, so let's give a hearty welcome and congratulations to Professor Dow, Aaron Lee Dow. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
Good to see you. I was wondering if you're where you were, but you're in your apartment. I see. How's it going,
Uh,
Farouk?
no, I'm here. I'm here. I was just enjoying watching Let's Go for a Ride again. Personally, for me, I was just curious if you wanted to talk a little bit about why Compton is figured so prominently in your work. You mentioned people of color as well. Why these two things, and in particular relationships and how they come together and also break apart seems to be a theme as well.
So I'll talk about Compton first. It's really just the city that I know. Born and raised there. Still live there now. Actually, I spend time away from the city, and it's always funny, especially I remember going off to college. I went to Atlanta. My college, I went Morehouse is in Atlanta, so I went to Atlanta, and just people's perception of Compton, of course, because it's popular culture, is different than my experiences there. It's very different from my experiences there in many respects, but also there are some overlap, I guess. And so I always found it interesting that uh, the representation is fairly, I don't say one-sided, but it doesn't talk to. But this is true with a lot of different people and places. I always say that especially when you talk about like black filmmakers, everybody wants to have good images. Have good. I don't believe in that idea. I believe in the idea of just diversity of images because all communities are diverse. They have people who believe many different things, live many different lifestyles, and I just didn't see necessarily me represented or people like me represented in the way that we were from the city. So that's and it's just it's easy to shoot there because I can I have family who live there and I can just use their yards, use their houses. I know the streets to shoot on. It's just a familiarity there. Um, yeah, so that's like the biggest reason why I shoot in Compton, and it has a name brand, which is always funny to me. It's always funny how people's perception when I say that. So I find it interesting. And then your second question was about relationships. Um, and it's funny, that's something that I realized a few years ago. I think it was after this film when someone, because that part of that bio you read was a bio I had to write for a LACMA when I was working for LACMA as a teaching artist. And they wanted, tell me more, like also mention, the type of like your philosophy in making art and things of that nature. And I was like, oh, I have to sit back and think about this now, huh? Like, how do I want to represent myself to this organization? But it's also more importantly, what is accurate? Um, and I realized like I find relationships interesting, uh, and not just like romantic relationships. So but it's just really the relationships, um, the personal ones, whether it be romantic or platonic or just friendships. And this idea, so I could tell you exactly where like all my movies idea comes from, like the moment when I get this idea. Let's Go for a Ride was because there's a good friend of mine who I went to Morehouse with. We met at Morehouse. We became friends at Morehouse. Then he went off to grad school. I went off to grad school in two different parts of the country, and we would like not talk to each other for months, like not even like for months. But when we did talk, it was as if no time had passed. You know, there wasn't any like, oh, we got to catch up. No, it was just like we just fell back into our habits. And I don't think that's a problem. There are a lot of people who do have issues with that. They have to always constantly stay in contact. I'm like, no, no, you live your life. I live my life, you know, and I trust that we will uh, grow in the same direction, but separately. And so I was like, what happens? Like, how do you represent this on camera? You know, how do you represent this? You know, and I remember, um, yeah, it's just I started thought it was fascinating because the lead in that film, um, I don't know why I'm blanking on her name, Elle. She kept asking me, she was like, "So these two characters never dated? They never?" I said, "No, no, they've just always been friends, you know." And that's I realized, especially when you have like different genders, um, people just start to assume these things, and it's like, no, why can't you just have these type of deep friendships and deep connections um, with somebody, and it's okay. People come, people go, um, and it doesn't have to be any more or less than that. Just enjoy the company, the time you have with them, you know. So yeah. So I find relationships very interesting, very interesting.